Yay! We are talking to Gia Goodrich today, and I'm very excited. I'm going to wait until she joins. It's going to be a good live today. Hello. Hello. It's going to be a really good live. We've got Gia Goodrich coming on. Just got to see. I actually am really bad at, hi. Hello. Hi. Welcome. Once Gia hops on, we are going to talk to her. I'm going to be interviewing her today. You are definitely going to get a good amount of value out of this because Gia is absolutely redonkulous and amazing. There she is. Let me see. How the heck do I get her to join? Let's see. Let me see. Wave. Oh, there we go. Gia knows. Gia knows how to do all the technical things. Here. Come on, Gia. Did I do it right? There she is.
Hi. Yes, you did. Hi.
Hello.
Racimos, we did it.
Yeah, I'm completely redonkulous at this stuff, so I'm glad you requested because otherwise it was not going to happen. How are you this morning?
I'm so good, and I'm really appreciative because I, first of all, just love you and your fabulosity and your sparkle-tastic energy. But I also love that we get a chance to connect and share what's been going on, because I feel like a lot of us get into these routines of like isolation where we're like ruminating so much in our heads, and so being able to talk things out and bounce things around is like such a fabulous thing. So yay.
Yeah, yes. Anytime I get to talk to you is a good time. I'm always happy. You always lift me up and you always get me rolling, so I'm super excited. So for people who don't know like who you are, what you do, can you give yourself like a little bio for me?
Yes, the spiel. Yes. So my name is Gia Goodrich. I am a gay ADHD having mixed Black creative strategist and educator. And my whole, like everybody, your origin story starts usually with some major pain points. And mine was really growing up and feeling like an alien in so many ways. I just did not belong, did not fit in, and of course had all of this social programming that was instilled. And so I spent a lot of time really divorcing myself from essentially what is my magic and my magnetic expression. So cut to many, many, many years later, feels like maybe 3 lifetimes if I really think about it. I am grateful enough to have figured out to be able to really see patterns in helping people empower themselves by tapping into that magnetic energy and then being able to express it. Because I feel like so often we are trying to play someone else's game. We're trying to fit into contexts that aren't really made for us. And when we can really tap into that authentic energy and then express it in a deeply authentic way, we can start really, this is your power zone, right? We can start to really attract the experiences, the context, the humans that are really aligned with us.
Yes, absolutely. Now, why don't you tell everyone, like you said you had like a pain point and that's what got you into this, but
oh yeah.
what made you get into the space that you and I are both in? Like what made you want to do it, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was little, I was mixed in a pretty much an all-white environment. I was thick in a very thin environment. I was neurodivergent in a very neurotypical environment, and I was pretty gayish in a very like straight heteronormative environment. So pretty much across like all of these axes, also like we were split coastal kids. So we were shipped between the West Coast and the East Coast. So really any way you sliced it, I was the alien odd person out. And it really culminated because I loved acting and I studied it. I really loved the craft, and I knew in my soul I was going to become the next Meryl Streep, because obviously that was my path.
Obviously, duh.
I mean, clearly. And so I went to LA with an agent and a manager and really was like, okay, this is my life. And I couldn't do it before because my mom couldn't afford it and she was a single parent doing the best she could. And so I got there and I was so excited. And this one moment was like the make or break audition, like the star maker moment. And my agent and my manager got so excited for me. I knew this was going to be it. And it was at a company that we all know. I'm not going to call them out. And I did this. I know, I'm like, I would probably get sued majorly after telling the story. But I like blew them away, honestly. And usually the casting directors are kind of stoic, you know, and I could just feel this really deep connection. They were so excited about me for this major part. And it would have been the first time that I was going to play somebody who wasn't just the sidekick, right? Like somebody that the story was about me, lead character energy. And it was so exciting. And then I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like I have to remember this moment, because this is like the moment that I'm going to be able to like really think back to and think, oh my God, like the journey started here. Like this is it. And then I got a call from my manager who had talked to my agent, who would talk to the casting directors. And they said, you know, they loved you, but they don't know who they could get to play your parents. And yeah. And so like in that moment, all of my dreams were just like shattered, because it was like, I had done years of vocal training to change my voice. I had done years of dieting, even at 19, to change my body. I had changed my style to be more like cutesy. Like I had changed everything about me. And this was the one thing that I could not change. And yeah, it was so disheartening and so traumatic. However, through that was like, okay, well, fuck everybody. Like I'm going to figure out my own way in the world. And I found photography, and I ended up being able, over 15 years, figuring out how to see that thing in somebody and really pull it out of them and reflect to them the version of themselves that they had never seen, and really discovered that that was my superpower. So, you know, many iterations, many meandering roads since then has led me to here, where now I teach people and I help people to do that.
Yay. And you're about to launch a 3-day, is it like a course or workshop? What is it? Tell me about it.
Yeah. I'm calling it a little mini boot camp. It's on Thursday, and it's an hour and a half each day. And I'm calling it Jumpstart, because it's like just that little jolt of something to really connect with that magnetic energy. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm super excited about it, because I'm writing a book. So if you see behind here, these are some stickies for the book that I'm writing. Yes.
Good for you. Yes. Yeah. What are you writing a book about?
So the book and actually Jumpstart are very linked. So the book is called Magnetic AF: How to Unlock, Express, and Attract from Your Most Vibrant Self. And so, yes, we're doing it. So these are all the sticky things of things I don't want to, you know, I want to remember to put in the book. And then those are the days of Jumpstart. So the first day is really how to unlock going into your identity, going into the stories, all of the things that we've been through, all of the facets of who we are, and really starting to mine that as the thing that really makes you powerful and magical and amazing. And then the second day is all about what I call the 5 expression channels. So we can really start to not only tap into that, but then express that with a really clear signal, because a lot of people get tripped up when it comes to, well, I know I have this great thought, but like when I say it, my words get muddied, or people don't really understand me. So being able to really align that is super powerful. And then lastly is about attraction, which, you know, the key to attracting from a really aligned place is also knowing that you are going to repel just as powerfully. And so being able to attract and repel the things that are, well, on one hand, the things that are totally aligned from you and really become magnetic yourself. And then on the other hand, how to repel the people and the contexts that are really not for you. So you can stop being, frustrated and burnt out, and like all of those things that are just deeply suboptimal.
So you said there are 5 on day 2. There's like 5 channels, you said. Can you give us a secret taste of one of them?
Of course, yeah. So one is, let's see, what's a good one to dig into? One is style, actually. And this is the one that like we start with. So I'll tell you each 5. So it's style, language, movement, creation, and then energy. So style is really, in Spanish we say manera de ser, which is like your je ne sais quoi, your way of being in the world, like how you do things, which can be reflected both as your visual style, your aesthetic, but also the way that you approach things, and just kind of that essence and flow that you move through the world with. And so really starting to be able to dial that in is really amazing. And so like the way I think about it is like, if somebody was just to see an image of you, or just to have some two-dimensional representation of you, what would they know? So like with you, what I love is like you immediately, like if we were to take a snapshot of you right now, looking at style, you would get a sense based on your background that there's an ease and flow, just sort of thinking about the way shapes relate to each other, plants in the background. And then you also get this fabulous dichotomy of like intensity, creativity, and fun by these elements that you're putting together, you know, like your iconic glasses and just all of these things. Yes, the icon is real. So it's yeah, and so a lot of people, usually with the 5, we have dominant expression channels. So some people are better with language, for example, than with style and things like that. But the goal is to be able to get them all to a place where you're really transmitting that signal very clearly.
I love that. And so as you go through, like on each day, are you kind of like explaining what each one of these things are, and then people are figuring out what they're strongest at, and then how, like, is that what you're doing?
Well, so actually it's called the magnetic quotient. I have an assessment that you can take in 4 minutes to figure out where you land already with all of them. Yeah.
We love assessment.
Yeah.
Who here? Give a wave if you love a freaking assessment. I swear to God, anytime I'm online and there's like, you take this assessment, I'm like, I want to know more about myself. I'll spend like an hour on it.
Yeah, and it was, you know, it was kind of a behemoth to put together, in all honesty, because I really wanted, like, to me, it's like yes, you want the knowledge, but then you're also like, okay, but like, give me the how. You know what I mean? Yeah. So after you take it, there's a lot of information in terms of how to really enhance and rock with each of these styles. But what's so cool for me is I get to see on the back end, what are the answers to a lot of these questions, right? And so I get to see what percentage of people are feeling like their words get jumbled, or that they wish that they just had somebody to translate immediately from their head into the world, whatever that they want, or that they find themselves swaying to music, which has to do with movement and our relationship to our physicality. So, so what's cool is people will, I know, right? Like some of us are like, yes, we have that. We have that. So being able to have that assessment as a baseline, then for people in day 2, they get to go in and really see, okay, like digging into each of these, how do we really start to enhance them?
Oh my gosh, it sounds so cool.
Thanks.
It sounds so fun. Now, I definitely wanted to talk to you about something that you make so many videos on, and I feel like you are the master of talking about imposter syndrome. So can you, first of all, explain to whoever's watching this, we're taping this as well, so we're putting it up, but what is imposter syndrome to you, and how do you kind of attack it or repel it?
Yes. Okay. So what's funny about that is, like, as you're saying, you're the master of this, the imposter stories immediately kick in. I'm like, well, there's so many people who are, who are doing it a different way than me, people who've already written books about it. So I think one of the first places to start when we start talking about, and really the original phrase was coined by 2 women psychologists, badass babes in the 70s. And it was called the imposter phenomenon. Yeah, the imposter phenomenon. So the whole syndrome piece came later. And this is the part I actually take issue with, because when we talk about it as a syndrome, we then internalize it as it's something that belongs to us, like a problem with us. And so the way I really like to present it is it's more like a software that somebody else downloaded into us that is not a fundamental part of who we are, and is something that we can learn to dance with, rock with, minimize, all of that sort of stuff. So in a nutshell, these imposter stories, this imposter software, can present in many ways, but it's typically thoughts, behaviors, any sort of energy that makes you feel disempowered, like you don't belong, like you're not good enough, like you're not worthy. And it can be, I mean, everybody's familiar with it, right? Especially, I've yet to meet a person who is out there really living their truth in some capacity or moving toward that, who has not confronted the imposter software situation at some point or currently.
Absolutely. Also, I want to say, Kellyanna said she's so proud of you, Gia.
Oh,
Team team.
love
Oh,
Kellyanna.
Kellyanna.
The
Um,
best.
yeah, I know when I've struggled with imposter syndrome is usually with my career right now.
Yeah.
There's so many of us out there. There's so many people out there who are teaching mindset or teaching how to be magnetic or manifestation, that kind of stuff. And some days I'm like making content. It's never with my clients because I'm on fire when I'm with my clients, but some days when I'm making content, I'm like, this is so saturated, and like, am I even helping people? Like, should I even be doing this? And then I just push through it because I'm like, no, because I get the feedback from people, that I am helping them, and that's usually what keeps me going. But if I didn't have that feedback, I don't know how long I would do it for, just because you do get those like second guess moments, where you're just like, is this just like, what the hell am I doing here? It's like,
And I mean, and I'm glad you share that, because there are so many important facets to break out of that. One, to understand that, and you've seen this, it's clear for you, your relationship, your story about how you're performing has nothing to do with reality. And I think that is very, very important to just always make clear for yourself. Like, my assessment of how I'm doing is very far afield from what the reality is. And so it's usually when we conflate those things. And myself as a photographer, I always used to laugh because my relationship to any particular photograph would be like this. You know what I mean? Like, I would just like oh my gosh, this is the worst thing I've ever made. My clients are totally going to think I'm a fraud. They're not, gosh, I'm glad I already got paid because they're going to be regretting this. And then I would get into it and I'd be like, oh, actually.
done?
Yeah. And it would just keep winding. And so being able to detach yourself from that and just realize, okay, if I can't trust my own assessment of how I'm performing, what can I trust? And then being able to look externally to the results, to the evidence, right? That's not about how somebody feels. It's like, how many people have I impacted? How many responses do I get? Like, all of these things, which can be a little bit dicey when you're looking at metrics in the social media game, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But what I love to do, and what I encourage people to do, is to set up what I call a ribbon drawer. And it's
is this a task? Let's do it.
Yes. It's like taking yourself back to that little kid moment where you had, like, my niece Eva has a string on her room that has all the ribbons that she's ever won, and like a trophy on her desk. And it's just like, her greatness is reflected to herself. But as an adult, I just stopped doing that along the way. Like, at some point you're like, oh, this isn't what adults do. Like, this is cringy, or whatever stories we make up. So what I recommend, and what I personally have, is I have an album on my phone that has, like, the cover of it is like a trophy and everything. And it's my ribbon drawer. And in there, I document what people say about me that has really impacted them. And so if somebody, like, after this, if somebody sends me a DM and says, like, hey, that was really X, Y, and Z, I'll screenshot it and I'll put it in the ribbon drawer, so that I know when my brain is acting up with imposter stuff going on, I can look at the evidence. And I have evidence because I've actually saved it, and I can look at it and be like, no, this isn't true. I am doing what I set out to do. And these are people who are being positively impacted by it. And that can really help get us out of the way. Yeah. But the one thing that's important to know about the imposter. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I love that idea.
Yay. The one thing that's really important to understand about the imposter software is that it's not something that you can just, like, Control Alt Delete and be done. Because those stories, those programs are constantly being reinforced by our families, by the popular media culture, by our industries. And so we are going to be very attuned and very sensitive to our outside stimuli environment that are reinforcing these internalized stories. So, one, to know that, like, you're always going to be rocking with it a little bit. It's then how to really dance with that instead of fighting with it and put it in its place. But the other part is to understand why. On a neuro level, right, looking at our brain circuitry, our brains are just trying to protect us, right? They're just trying to keep us safe. And Yeah, it's like, that's the job. Okay, that's the mission. Got it. I'm not going to let you drive the car today, but I appreciate the effort. It's like, I love that for us. But secondly, this software that's been instilled in us really helps maintain a status quo that keeps power consolidated in the hands of very few people who share the same identity. And I jokingly refer to this identity as the white cis hetero dude bro with money. Um, but you know, it helps those systems, those structures stay there if people are scared to take up space, if people are scared to speak their truth, if they're scared to live in non-traditional ways. So to understand, the part that I'm generating is just my brain trying to keep me safe. The part that is generating and perpetuating it toward me is to maintain a status quo that I'm not about anyways. Then it helps you to really not take it personally and to free up some of that energy so you can really start to get playful with what that means and how you move through your life doing things, which yeah, I have a hack for that, but.
You have a hack?
Yes. I mean, duh.
Of course you have a hack.
Yes, we do know me.
Can you share the hack?
Absolutely. So, okay. So the way around the imposter software is flexing what I call your even though muscle. And there's a really great way to tie this into some somatic practices. You can get your brain and your body on the same page. So the even though muscle in a nutshell is just getting good at creating a global identity. So we're not looking at discrete areas where we can experience imposter feelings, right? Because it's usually the stuff that you're growing into, the new stuff. It's not like brushing your teeth. Like nobody has imposter stories about brushing your teeth, right? You've done it, you're fine, you've run, yeah, you're like, we're good. So when it comes to that, it's about creating this global structure so that even when you are doing things that are new and challenging, you have this foundational confidence in this one thing, which is flexing your even though muscle. So this is telling yourself, even though I feel X, I'm going to do Z.
Like, right? I'm gonna anyway, or like, so like, is this an example? Like, even though I feel like I'm not good enough, I'm still gonna freaking rock this presentation.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Even though I feel like an imposter and I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna laugh at me in this meeting, I'm still gonna say my piece. Even though I feel like my ass looks horrible in these running tights, I'm still gonna do the workout that I want to do because it's for me, right? It's training yourself and developing confidence that even though you are feeling whatever way, you're having these stories, whatever, that you are still the type of person. And this is the part where it becomes really powerful, is you change your identity. I'm the person who shows up even though all of this stuff is going on.
And you're rewiring your brain.
Yes, and exactly. And
full new shebang with that. I love it.
Yes. And the thing that makes it like takes it to like an even like a 10x level is then when you incorporate it with EFT tapping, which, are you familiar?
Yes, love it. Love tapping.
It's amazing. And I can tell you 100% it is something I resisted for like 10 years because I was like, no, not going to do it. Not going to be my feelings. Not going to tap on these weirdo points. I'm just not about it. Well, obviously this apple rolled right back to the tree because it has been I'm a 3-line in human design, which means we're the type of people who have to experiment and figure out all the things that don't work in order to find what does.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which is, it's a tough role to be in. So I have tried, at this point, I've read hundreds, if not thousands of self-development books. I have tried like every therapeutic modality you can think. I mean, I have just literally tried so many things. And there are a few things that I can personally recommend that have created the shifts for me. Now, other things might work for other people, but for me, only a few. EFT tapping is one of those things. And if you're not familiar with it, all it is there are these certain meridian points that you can look up, super easy. And you start with the problem. Yeah, you start with the problem. You say, and this is the part that I love, and not everybody does it this way. Some people just jump straight to the affirmations, right? Which you and I can have a whole conversation about affirmations, right? But some people jump there. I don't. I jump with
the thought, right? So you start
yes,
the negative.
yeah, like
create
oh my gosh, I'm a frumpedumplus and everybody's going to judge the fuck out of me. And I'm going to be so embarrassed after saying this thing. I'm going to want to die. And this is not even the worst thing, because at one time in 6th grade, when I dropped my backpack in front of everybody, you just let yourself run. You let all those stories run. And as you're doing that, you're regulating your nervous system. And eventually the truth comes out. And the truth for all of us is that we're all love. We're all worthy. We have lived through harder things than this. We can make it happen. We've got it. And then literally, like, I will do that sometimes and just be like, oh my gosh, I'm a totally different human than I was 5 minutes ago, you know? So, yeah.
Getting to, I think the only part that maybe you didn't hit was, so you start with that, but then you transition as you feel it, then you transition into the new statement about yourself. So exactly like what Gia was just saying, even though this, I'm still this. So like, it's the same thing with the tapping, like you're starting with, even though I feel like blah, 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 because this, and this happened. And then you transition into, I'm capable of these things. I can do these. And then you go through and you're not only, emotionally like waking yourself up to something, but then in that moment that you're emotionally waking yourself up to something, you're planting that new seed, you're planting that new belief, the belief that you want to actually believe rather than the other crap.
Yes, absolutely. And the one, and see, and I skip past that. So I'm glad that you say that, because I just call that the truth of the reality, right? Which is the truth of all of that situation. But I think that's a good nuance. The other thing it's important to say, and you can look it up in EFT tapping, is that as you're doing that, you are also saying, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself.
Yes.
And that's a very powerful thing. So I will start with just like the cold ass truth. And then I will add, and I completely and profoundly love and accept myself, even though I'm a fuck up and a failure, even though, but then after a while, and this is the part that to me that's so magical about it, is we're not skipping over, we're not bypassing the gunk that's in there, the stories that are in there. And that's, I think, a lot of different modalities, why they haven't resonated with me, is because I'm like, no, I know there's stuff that needs to come up and be expressed. But once it is out, then there's this negative space where you can implant the good stuff that you want to really sit in your nervous system and become your truth.
Yeah, I love that. Tapping doesn't work for everyone. There's a girl on here saying she doesn't like it. I definitely think that it's just a modality that you can use. It works for some people and some people it doesn't work for, but you could try it for a little while. And then if it doesn't work for you, you can try something else. I mean, just like what Gia was just saying, there's so many different ways. And back to your program, there's ways that people, express themselves and, turn on their feelings. And there's all different types of people. Some people it's auditory, some people it's visual, some people it's feeling, some people it's experiential. Like you just, you have to kind of kiss a few frogs before you get your prince.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And let's see this. How long would you recommend trying to know if it's effective? I mean, I would try it a couple of times, and there are things on YouTube that you can follow along with. So you can have somebody saying the prompts for you. But usually what a big part of EFT is that you rank your emotional state at the beginning and you rank it at the end. And the reason that you do that is that a lot of times we forget where we started. So if you said I was at a 4 and then you're like, oh, but I'm at an 8 now. Okay. There must have been progress, right? So I would, but I would give it a couple things, but this is actually, so day one in the first part of my book about unlocking your magic is really about going in to really figure out you and really tapping into that internal guidance system, which we all experience differently, and looking at different ways to get at that. So one that I'm just learning about is called human design, which is, it's so good. It's so good.
I want to get certified in it at some point. I'm just like, it's like, that's such a whole other ball of wax that I don't have time for right now, but it's so cool. If you guys haven't looked into it,
it's so deep, like that, and gene keys. And I mean, there are a few things that are around there in that similar zone that are amazing, but basically
What's Gene Keys? I don't know that one.
Gene Keys is very similar, and oftentimes they're put together. So if you're not familiar with human design, it's like a, this weird sort of graph with like 9 spaces. And then there are all these numbers, which are channels or gates. So the channels correspond to the gene keys. So what's interesting is you can be like one of mine, what is it? I think it's gate 5. So I'm really dominant. My conscious sun, it kind of has to do with astrology too, is a gate 5. And with the gene keys, what that means is you have the shadow aspect of it, the gift in that, and then the CD, which is like the fullest expression of that. So for me, impatience is how my shadow expression turns up, which is like, yep, that tracks. And then attraction is the gift. So being able to, which makes sense. Like I deal in magnetism and self-expression. Okay, that reads. But then, oh wait, is that the one? Yeah. Yeah. And then the last one is timelessness. So getting to a place where, or no, I'm conflating two. It's invisibility rather. So, and when I first read that, I was kind of like, invisibility, what does that mean? And it basically means, like, per my understanding, is like taking your need, desire, and ego out of it completely, and really just being this mirror that like beautifully reflects the magic in other people. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds great. That's that's not where I'm at all the time, because I have a little ego that needs to be fed in certain moments. But it's
on your own, so definitely that. Yeah. There's
yeah. But it's really cool, and the reason I'm sharing, cycling back to EFT, is that what we want to be able to do is figure out where our wisdom is expressed and how we can know what it's saying. So I used to say, follow your gut, listen to your gut, your solar plexus, come on, like, you know what that is. And then when I found human design, I was like, oh, 70% of people have a gut. The rest of people don't necessarily have a gut. They might feel something emotionally. They might have this mental ping. Like, there are different ways that people experience what that internal wisdom is. So going through this process of really starting to uncover these layers about yourself and really get curious about yourself really helps in so many different areas. But to start to be able to show up magnetically, because you have to know something, what it is about it, in order to appreciate it, right? Like if somebody shows you a Fabergé egg, but you just think like, oh, this is, like something that my grandmother made, you would have a certain amount of maybe reverence because it's, pretty cool the way it's done. But like knowing the history and knowing the value and understanding everything that this art object went through, it's going to give you a different frame of reference. And we aren't really taught or encouraged to do that for ourselves.
That's a good
which
analogy.
is why, yeah.
I love that. That's a really good analogy, actually. Yeah, usually when I'm talking to my clients, I always have to ask them, like, when you get really excited, like when you're really happy, do you feel something in your solar plexus? And some of them do say no. Some of them don't have that feeling. But if they do, like that's the seed of, for people who don't know, like that's the seed of manifestation. Like when you're turning on a manifestation, at least in my realm, you feel you're emotionally and physically aligned, and you could picture yourself basically like just jetting out like sparkle juice everywhere from your solar plexus. Come and get it. People don't have that, and if they don't, you just have to find a different way. So I love that. I'm so excited to read your book. I cannot. When is it going to be ready? Do you have like a projected time?
Yeah, July 2023. So soon in terms of book timelines. But for somebody who is ADHD, it feels like a lifetime in the future. But yeah, I'm really excited.
How much time do you spend on it every day?
Well, my whole thing that I'm working on right now in terms of magnetism is really approaching things with my own lens. So I'm getting to your question, but like for me, the teeing up question is, how can this experience be as easeful and joyful as possible? So today I'm not spending any time on it, right? And I allow for spaces but I did set the parameters for myself. I'm writing it between now and mid-January. And then the production print process is going to take the rest of the time. So because I know that, and I've already, it's like programmed that for myself, I have sort of loose ideas of when, but I've been making it really fun for myself. And I'm actually, instead of physically writing it, I dictate it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so finding ways that, you know, that work for me, but again, like, because I know myself and I know that when I wrote my thesis for grad school, it was, I mean, I got to some of the lowest moments probably in my life during that process. And so I never thought I would write a book because of that.
Wow.
But then in having it drop in, like the idea of the book, or just the idea that I would write a book, dropped in a few years ago. And then I was like, that's interesting. Doing some, like, you know, journaling. I was like, okay, pretty sure that's not going to happen. And then over the course of the last few years, I've written ideas of things that could potentially be it. And then one day in the shower, the idea for this came in. And then it's always in the shower. I know.
Dude, leave an emoji if you have your great ideas in the shower. I always.
Do you know why though? Why I think it is my working theory? Probably
water is like meditative, and you start to like desensitize.
Yes, and then also, well, water holds information, but also I think because it's like the few moments where we're in that non-doing space and in a receptive space, but that our physical body is occupied. So I, for years, and still sometimes I struggle with meditation because, like, I'm just like, you know, I can't. But I realize I meditate all the time in the shower.
Yeah.
But, like, that's just naturally what happens for me, which makes sense. You have to create the negative space for positive things to come in. So, so yeah, now I intentionally try to create more negative space in my day. But if not, I just take an extra shower.
Girl Graphic says there is a study around that theory. Very cool. I'll have to look it up. I actually find sometimes when I'm puzzling too, like when I'm doing puzzles. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like if I'm puzzling, my best friend, she was on here earlier. I don't know if she's on here anymore, but like when you're puzzling, it's just like you're focusing on like looking for the piece, but then your brain kind of like lets go. And then I find like some amazing ideas, or even just like peace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I try to meditate every day, which it's taken me a long time to get to the place where I can, but some people can. Some people have to be like doing something like knitting, or, you know, something where you're like, just like what you're saying, like your body's doing something and then your brain can go whoop and get out of it.
Yeah, you know? For sure. I actually, to take it to a total kookadoodle place, have started.
We love that. We love the kookadoodle place.
Just full kook. I have started doing derives, which is actually, I used to do them before. It's a practice that came from a sort of absurdist art movement, where the idea is that you walk without aim or direction. And you just walk. But what I've been doing lately has been doing derives, where I like talk to the trees and like have the trees kind of tell me where to go. And yeah, and yesterday it led me to like this chance encounter with a really fabulous human I haven't seen in 2 years. And we like sat on their porch. I met their wife, and like we talked for 20 minutes, and I was just like, thank you, trees. This is awesome.
I love that. First of all, I love that you talk to trees, because I really talk to trees. I've been doing it since I was a little kid. Like even when I'm driving the car, I'm like, hey, you look good. Thank you. I love you. I'm always, I've never like asked them any questions, so maybe I should try that. But usually I'm just like sending them vibes. Like every time I see a tree, I'm like, you're beautiful today. I love you. Because I'm like a tree weirdo. I think maybe I'll try asking for some wisdom from them, for sure.
I mean, it's cool. I'm just getting into a lot of this world because I had been very deeply skeptical, because my mom was this earth mother, woo-rific human who was like, oh, circle of stones and Celestine prophecy, let's sit in a circle naked and bleed together. And I was just like, I don't want to do any of that, you know. But then now, as a grown-up, and I had a couple of really jarring experiences that sort of shook me awake to the idea that, for me, what feels like a reality is that there's a lot in the non-physical spaces that are just, you're kind of a pompous asshole if you're just like gonna walk around like denying it. Like, I don't need to know the answer to everything, but I do know there has to be other aspects. And then when you start looking into indigenous wisdom, Every indigenous culture has revered and talked about spirits and energies in plants. And so to me, it really makes sense. And, you know, there's also like, I've been seeing lately, there's this really amazing product called the Plant Wave, where
oh my God, it's so cool.
It's so cool.
Wait,
but like,
tell them what it is. It's so freaking cool. I love it.
Yes, it's I mean, I don't really know how it works, but like basically you put these really, you know, non-issue having electrodes onto the plants and they produce sound. And these researchers and everything who had created them who talk like it's almost like, and there are some points where like the time and way that the response happens, it very much seems like you're having a dialogue. And so, you know, if your brain is sort of like, nope, that's not a thing, I totally appreciate that because my brain had been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the more that I've been exposed to, the more I really just accept that there's a lot to the universe that we don't personally understand, but maybe it's a lot of information that was held for thousands of years that we have just temporarily lost, but can find again. So yeah, I mean, and then like the worst case scenario, what? You're being kind to a sentient being.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
There's no harm in it. That's for sure. So I want to go back a little bit to your program because I want to just make sure anyone that's been here who like wants to know information about it. What, like, who is this for and who is it not for? Because I feel like a lot of times people, when they're talking about their programs and stuff, they don't say who it's not for, and then people sign up that shouldn't. So let's know, who is it for and who is it not for?
I love that question. Yeah. So it's not for someone who is not wanting to go in to the places, right? Not wanting to feel the feelings, would rather just like be in their container and feel good about what they know to be true than to have some of that expansive, cracking open sort of stuff. Because to me, we all want, often what I see is we want the result. Like, oh yeah, you're telling me I can be magnetic and people can love me for me and I can create beautiful context for my life where I can just show up, be me, do that and have people love me for it. Yeah, I want that. Then I'm like, cool. Are you willing to not talk to yourself like an asshole? Are you willing to like really feel your feelings and get comfortable with what they have to say? Are you willing to be able to dig into some of these shame stories and release them and understand that that is a part of your superpower package? Are you ready to stop masking in some certain situations? Are you ready to turn down things and really tap into a sense of trust when you know something is not in alignment for you? Are you ready to really listen to that inner wisdom and like make the decision that you are going to do that? If you're not, well, okay, like
that's fine.
I can't do anything for you. Yeah, because those are the ways in that I know to be true, that I see and that I help people with. So that's why I would say it's not for. The people very specifically that it is for, in my mind, are the people that are going through these transitional processes, right? Of you've had a move, you've had a job transition, you've had some sort of shakeup, whether relationally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is, that has made you question who you are on some level and what you're doing in the world. Because I know for a lot of us, we've become known for things. Maybe you're known in your job. You've done your job for a certain amount of years. You don't think there's any way you could leave it. Maybe you're known as being, like my sister, a wonderful volleyball player. And then after you get out of that context, you're like, oh shit, like who am I in the world? Right? Yes. And so for me, it's for people who have gone through some of these inflection points and really want and are willing to figure out truly who they are, and who are wanting to express that in the world in a way that can have a positive impact. So it's really about sharing it on some level. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a Britney Spears microphone and stand up on stage, although if you want that, that's great. But I'm just even saying, even in your interpersonal interactions with your family, with your friends, are you somebody who's going to share, to be honest, to really open up and let people see you fully for who you are? Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. What do you think the key factors are when people lose their sparkle?
Oh, yeah. I think it always comes back to playing someone else's game, right? Like deferring, basically outsourcing your power, letting other people tell you who you are, letting outside forces tell you where you belong, tell you what you should be thinking, tell you what you should be feeling, and allowing all of that external influence develop this sort of shame sushi roll that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
I love that.
Yeah, I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. This is why doing live stuff is always so much fun. I'm like, you know, but it's really having that sort of, those elements really develop and get further away from who you are. And to me, the root, the source, the answer is always coming back into who you are. However, that can be scary because we live in a world where one of our fundamental needs is to belong. And so often people trade true belonging for fitting in. Like we conflate those two ideas. And Brene Brown has, you know, books and research all about what true belonging is, which is really first belonging to yourself.
Yes.
And then allowing people to be in an interaction with that human that is truly you. That is the only way that you can belong and truly connect with other people, is showing up fully as yourself. But a lot of us deny, suppress, shame who we truly are to fit in to contexts and environments and groups that aren't truly meant for us anyways. So there's also a part of release that has to happen, and that can be very, very difficult in like releasing friends, releasing partnerships, releasing opportunities that aren't meant for you and things like that. But I think we all know that feeling where you start to show up and feel dull. And it's always because there's external circumstances that are getting in the way of you really tapping into and experiencing that fullness of who you are.
I've seen that a lot with my, you know, with my clients where they're maybe like in a relationship or a job that they're miserable. The person's treating them like shit.
Yeah.
You know, but they have this idea in their head of what this should be. And so they won't let it go, even though it's absolutely tearing them down and keeping them from who they actually should be. And not being able to let go of that, and not being able to let go of an idea that they think they should have. Like they think they should be in this relationship, so they want to stay in this relationship. They've worked on this relationship. They've put all this investment into this relationship. And even though this relationship is not necessarily because the person's a jerk, just it's not working out and it's energetically sapping you. They refuse to move out of that, even if it's going to mean them becoming the best possible version of themselves.
Yeah. I mean,
mention that.
I'll speak very personally. I mean, that just happened to me. I was in a relationship for 6 years with an incredible, wonderful human that I love so much. However, in the course of those 6 years, we had stacked a lot of belief stories about who each of us was and what we were together.
Oh, wow.
And it was really challenging because she has always been so supportive with things for me. Like, you know, 6 years, she always did my laundry, because laundry for my neurospicy brain is like very difficult to do. She would like open my mail, because that's also a thing that's very difficult, you know. So there were like, and then she's been my rock, you know. So there are some very emotional dependency there. There's, you know, physical, like life skill dependency there. And, you know, and there are these aspects that I had historically, you know, and until recently felt very scary to leave that dynamic. And especially in this situation where it's like, there was nothing wrong, right? Like, here's this person that I love so deeply. But I also knew that we weren't a total fit for each other. And so it was like sandpaper grading each other down just very finely each day. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not what each of us truly wants or needed, you know? And so it took a lot of, not to toot my own horn, but it took a lot of bravery for me to be like, okay. And I respect her and love her so much. And, you know, but it's a scary endeavor. But when you jump without a net, in a way that's in alignment with your truest, highest self, I do firmly believe that the universe catches you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, I did not know that about your relationship. I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you have such an awesome perspective on it, which so quickly, which is amazing.
Which is not to say, I mean, just to throw this out there, that's not to say it wasn't brutal as fuck. Like I was still crying, you know, like just yesterday I was crying because I miss my dog and I just wanted to be wrapped up. Like she's the most beautiful human just to like swaddle me like a baby and like, you know, that I could dump all of my imposter stories onto and be like, no, you're amazing, you know, blah, 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 blah. So it's not that it hasn't been easy, but that what it's also given me is the opportunity to do that for myself. Yeah. And I've really tapped into that capacity to soothe myself, to be able to like really have that and cultivate that inner knowing of who I am and what I want without any sort of outside interference, you know, from her or anybody else, because that's what we, you know, what we do. And thankfully, you know, I have some amazing friends and I have a wonderful family that have swooped in certain elements, you know, in certain moments, but it hasn't been easy, but it's also been exactly what I needed. And I think that's a part of this magnetic manifestation journey, is really about being brave, even though you feel sad and it feels scary and it feels overwhelming, because you're always rewarded on the other side of that bravery.
Yeah, I think people have an idea about bravery where it's like, I'm brave, I'm not going to have any feelings about this, I'm just going to shut it all down and go. Oh, yeah. It's like, that's not how it works. Like,
if that's how it works for somebody, I would like to meet them and just have them rub off on me through osmosis, because that has not been my experience at all.
Yeah, it's so funny because like this thing that I heard a couple of years ago, and it was instead of saying, or no, I read it in a book. It said, instead of saying till death do us part, when you get married, you should say for as long as we grow together. And I loved that idea because I do think like in various relationships, things can be so perfect, things can be wonderful. But if you're growing in two different directions, or if you're growing at two different speeds, energetically, you might not be aligning anymore. And it doesn't mean that person is an asshole. It doesn't mean that person is a jerk. It doesn't mean that they're not doing enough. It just means that you guys were together for a bit and it was awesome. And one person's going this way and one person's going that way. Or in a perfect world, you know, maybe you're constantly growing at the same rate and you're growing together and it's great. But I think like the pressure of saying till death do us part, and then like you're signing on the dotted line and like, you're like, okay, so even though you're like a bump on a log on the couch every day and I'm trying to like be positive and you're being super negative, it's like, no, like I will never do that. Like I will never sign on for that, because if the person isn't right there with me energetically, they don't have to be all the time, because we're not. But like overall, when you're taking an average of it, like if it's not working, it's just not working. And that is really cool that you like realize that you guys both realized that and figured that out. It's amazing. And now you have all this open energy to put into your program, into your book, and into growing. And I love that. And I can't wait to see what happens with you, because I find you so fascinating, and your brain is so fascinating. Like you take in so much information, and you're like a little library. You're always like pulling these like facts and all of like this. It's just like so cool to talk to you time, because you're like dropping in these like massive, like beautiful nuggets of wisdom every time I talk to you. So I'm so appreciative that you talked to me today. I love
Thank you so much. Well, and what I will say, I really received that, and I'm very grateful that you view me that way, because it's really lovely. And what I will also say is those are all the things that made going to school very difficult, right? So it's usually digging into our history and realizing the things that we were shamed for, the things that got us in trouble in school or in relationships. Like those are the things. Like I always got flack for the fact that I could never give like a straight thought. You know, it's like you're talking about sushi rolls and like we're like, what does this have to do, you know? And it was something, honestly. Or like another great example is I have a podcast. We're on hiatus right now, but it's called Only the Bold. And I did years of vocal training because I was told that my voice was too monotone and too like gravelly, had too much vocal fry for, you know, everything. And so I literally spent years so that I could talk like this and be more dynamic. And I launched a podcast even though I actively knew in my brain that I had a shitty voice. Yes, exactly. I launched it even though I knew that. And it was, I mean, it was the most delightful, weird surprise that I could have ever imagined, that I had people actually giving me positive feedback on my voice. And I was like, whoa, I need to like,
I know, I love
it. Well, thank you. I mean, thank you. And this is what I'm saying. Like, our mental stories about who we are do not match up with reality. And it takes bumping into other people and other experiences to be able to understand that, you know, like if I have 6 people who are not prompted saying, hey, your voice is good, at some point I have to accept that my story about myself is wrong, you know? So yeah, so I appreciate that, because my pinball machine brain, as it was often called, was something that I always thought was a detriment. And now it's literally not only how I get to live my life and how I get to express my calling to the world, but it's also something that people share with me that resonates them, like the why me, right? Like you were talking about with other people, where it's like, you know, there are other people out here teaching manifestation. There are other people doing this stuff. The why you piece is because of you, you know, it's because of those things that you bring to the table, your authenticity, that other people doing the exact same thing can't do, because you're doing it through your lens, through your stories, through your vocal inflection, through your style, like all of these ways. So
absolutely love that. And for any of you who are interested, where can they get the link? Where can they find more info on your boot camp?
Sure. The link, I don't know if somebody would be awesome to type it. It's just my name, giagoodrich.com/jumpstart. And it's also the link in my bio.
Oh,
yeah, we're going to start Thursday, and I'm super excited about it. The one thing I just want to say, because it's on my mind, because of what you're talking about.
Yes.
The mantra that I've been saying to myself in my head this whole time, especially in transitioning with that relationship, is that I have to accept that I cannot be in everyone's life forever.
Thank you, Chinwendu. Say it again.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, Chimundu, thank you. Being able to say that and remind myself, and also people are boomerangs in my experience, like they don't abandon you, they boomerang back in your life at some point. But really getting okay with that, like, you know, truly we can't hold on to every person, everything for fear of loss. Like we have to hold things loosely. And
wait, Gia, what was the mantra? It was, I have to accept what?
I want to accept, I'm working on accepting that I cannot be in everyone's life forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's tough with that realization, because, you know, your brain wants to do all sorts of things. Like there are people right now that I love and I miss and I want in my life. And for whatever reason, we're not in each other's lives, you know? And like I'm thinking I have a friend, you know, over many years, and every once in a while I think about them and I'm just like, fuck, I miss you. But like, it doesn't work, you know? And there's a grace and an acceptance that I'm every day working toward, to be able to understand that, you know, what is that, for a season, for a lifetime, for a day, a season, a lifetime, whatever sort of trite wisdom is out there, you know, trying to accept that really there's a transitional nature to relationships and that there's a beauty in that.
Do you know who Mel Robbins is? That lady Mel Robbins?
Oh yeah.
She's amazing. And I was listening, there's like this free podcast on Spotify, and I was listening to it, and she was talking about relationships. And of course she talked about it like a tree. So I loved it.
Oh yeah.
She was saying that, like, I'm going to butcher it, but she was basically saying that in your life, some people are leaves. They're there for a little while and then they fall off with the season. Some people are small branches. So they have like veins through your life that maybe are meaningful, but not necessarily for your whole life. Some people are big branches and have big moments in your life. And then some people are the trunk. They're like the foundation. They're there for the length of the journey. And all pieces of the tree are important, and all pieces of the tree are beautiful and have like resonance in your life. Like you know, just because the leaf falls off doesn't mean that we didn't like completely enjoy the moments that the leaves were there. I'm fucking this up. You got to just
no,
but
no, I got it. I love that visual and that analogy. And also there's a part of me that's like, bullshit, because that's what my brain wants to say. And so that's the thing, is like understanding that I can house both of those things simultaneously, because if I had my way, everybody would be trunks. We would just be trunking it together, you know?
I like I'm weirdly not like that. And I think it's because I moved so much when I was a little kid. So like, I don't have any problem, like, and this sounds bad, what I'm going to say, but like, I don't have any problem like dropping people and just moving on and then looking back and being like, I love that person, but like, I have nothing to do with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have like almost the opposite problem, where I have to work harder on like, yeah, working on relationships and growing them, because I am so like in whatever zone that I'm in, that I like let people fall by the wayside. And
Yeah.
you know, there'll be people that were my best friend when I was a little kid, that I spent every day with and was so close with and thought I was going to be friends with for the rest of my life. Or there were people that I dated that I thought, oh my God, you're always going to be in my life, even though we're breaking up. And it's just like, energetically, I'm not aligned with them anymore. So it would kind of, I feel like there'd be resistance there, even if I tried.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not on the same page, you know? Doesn't mean.
Well, just to dig into that really quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
I think what is so wonderful and also fascinating about what you said is you said this piece that to me definitely sounds like a strength. Not that any strength cannot be overdone, because they all can. But you started it saying what? Do you remember?
No.
This sounds horrible to say.
Oh.
Yeah. I know, right? And I'm so glad that you said it, because it's such a revelatory moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
You have some sort of weird shame around how this particular characteristic about you sounds.
I do. I definitely do. And I think it's because it makes me sound cold. I think it makes me sound like I don't care about the relationships that I have. And like, right. So there's the people that I am very close with that are in my relationship. You know, I have relationships now. And if they heard me say that, they'd be like, oh, so what, are you going to just drop me like a hot coal? But that's not at all how I look at it, but I know how it possibly could be perceived, I guess. So go with it.
Okay. So this is the magic about really owning your truth and expressing magnetically. To me, the opposite side of that is control, manipulative energy, right? Which we all have gotten into, where it's like, I want to control the outcome. So I'm going to say it in this way to make sure it's received this way. I'm going to try to make sure this person's not mad at me. And this is in the suite of like emotional hostessing sort of things that we do to try to like control and manage and all of this stuff, especially for all of us trauma babies that are, you know, doing it from growing up environments that we're just so good at being hypervigilant, you know. But the gift in going through this exploration with the type of work that you and I both do is starting to get so centered in the who you are, having that deep acceptance, understanding, and compassion for who you are, that you get to a place where you're like, yeah, and this is how I am. You can, and I'm creating an opportunity for you to actively judge me. Sure, you can.
Yeah.
But if you are doing that, it's saying more about where your energy is at and also what your projections are, because my energy is coming through very clearly. And that's the thing, you couched it in that one thing, you know, this is horrible to say, but what you said, there wasn't anything horrible in that. And I kept thinking like, oh, I can see how that benefits you as a teacher, as a transformation coach out of all of this stuff, because I can see that you having very little stickiness around letting this transitional energy that's very much tapped into and supportive of transformation, because transformation means change inherently, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love my
yeah. So it's like, to me, this is a part of your superpower suite, but obviously because of the way, and I'm saying, using you as an example in this moment.
No, I love it.
I also, I'm like,
real time. Let's do it.
Because, we all have these aspects, right? Obviously, at some point, you've been shamed culturally, familially, whatever it is. You've been shamed into thinking this is not how we should be. And so you are not expressing that element fully. But in reframing and in understanding, like, not only is this a part of me that is powerful and that's amazing, it's also a part of me that's informing what I do and is helping me it's differentiating me from other people, from the, you know, me, the like globby tree trunks. It's like, come and be in my orb forever, you know. There's going to be downsides to both, but there are also superpower elements to every aspect and facet that we have. And so I think, and I'm so glad that this popped up in such a beautiful synchronistic way, is because you can be the epitome of confidence. And there will always be these sneaky places where shamey stuff will pop up. So it's a practice. It's not like a destination that you arrive at, you know?
It's a marathon. It's a very long marathon, for sure.
Yes, yes, but it's beautiful. The more you tap into it, and the more you create space, and the more you express, and the more you allow yourself to say things and allow yourself to be seen, in even though people could judge you, even though people could project stuff onto you, that's when you really become magnetic, in my opinion. Because that's really when you start being so clear about who you are that it sends this energy that attracts people, because all of those little places are a turn. Yeah, go ahead.
I have something to say about this, and you will totally get this. You will totally get this. Okay. So I might have talked to you a little bit about this before, but so I'm also writing a book, but the part about this that I want to talk about is with acting. When you are auditioning, you know, when I was in casting, actors would come in the room and they would like bring cookies or give compliments or be like overly like, hi, nice to meet you. And you were like, let's get the ball rolling here. And then there would be other people that would come in and they were just like, this is me. This is what I'm doing. And, you know, you were always like, who is that? Like, who is this person? And it's not because they weren't into you. It's because they didn't give a fuck. They literally would walk in and be like, this is what I got. This is what I'm doing. And they would take direction and change and, you know, stuff like that. But then you look at stories about people who are super successful and super charismatic and people who are super attractive, like Heath Ledger, you know, would go into an audition and be like, here you go, you know, and he would always get it because he didn't care. He was like, this is it. This is me. I'm coming in. I'm not changing for you. Like, this is me. And I love that. And I find that there was actually a girl on TikTok the other day. I don't know if you've seen this TikTok, but the girl's she's talking about who has the sauce and who doesn't have the sauce.
Yes.
Has anyone seen that? And I saw that and I was like, she's so right. Like, people with the sauce, like, you know, they have the sauce. It's not about their looks. It's not about their job. It's not about anything. It's about they're walking in the room and they have the sauce and they're just like, this is me. Like, hey, what's up? And they're not like trying to angle themselves a certain way and trying to look a certain way and trying to make sure that they're having a conversation a certain way and drop in who they know and who they've worked with and blah, blah, blah. It's like none of that. It's like they walk through a room, they walk through a coffee shop, in their home, on their own, whoever they are so present in their self-concept. They know who they are, and it's freaking magnetic. Like, you want to be around those people because A, we recognize in them what we want to be, which is completely comfortable as ourselves. And then B, we see them and we're like, well, wait, they must have something different because they're just like so confident and they're like so into themselves and like, you know, I want to know what's going on. So it's like, you're so attracted to those people.
Well, and so this is I'm so glad you brought that up, because this is like the hill that I will die on. It's that we all have the sauce. We literally, everybody has the sauce.
Oh yeah,
I know, we should have a song. But, this is a big but though. Most people are so attached to the outcome that they can't tap into their sauce, right?
Yes.
And that's, to me, like when I hear things like, I don't give a fuck, or, you know, when it's sort of like that rhetoric. And to me, I'm like, that's one way to look at it. But for me, what is even more resonant is I give so many fucks. Really do. I care deeply, just not about the outcome. Because I know that and I trust, and this is a part of it, is developing that trust muscle, that everything that I am, everything that I go through, everything that is happening in a way that supports me. So I can be myself. And if you don't like me, okay, maybe our energy isn't a fit. Everything in life is only ever about fit. And if we're not a fit, who cares who says it first? It's fine. Like, let's not waste each other's time in any type of relationship dynamic. So being able to divest from that outcome and just be like, showing up to a party, this is who I am. I'm awkward as fuck. This is who I am. Like, my brain says really weird things. This is who I am. I'm going to sit in the corner and like just kind of soak everything in. It's when we add all of this layer of outcome, whether it's what people are going to think, what is going to happen, what opportunity, all this other story, is when we get shaken out of that gravitational force, our own gravitational force, and we start losing that saucy energy. And so I believe firmly that people can get back into that centered place where they are saucy as fuck, magnetic, and people are just drawn to them. And not because they're acting like somebody else, not because they have the same mannerisms or they have, you know, the beauty that is really revered, whatever. Because we've all seen people that violate all of those notions.
Yeah.
But because they are so in alignment with who they are, with what they want, with what they're about, like all of that, that they can literally divest from the outcome and just be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the work that you and I do, is
to
get people to recognize their sauce.
Yes.
Keep it up.
That sauce lifestyle.
Yes, that sauce. And maybe we should do like a co-podcast or a book or something. That sauce lifestyle. # that sauce lifestyle.
Love that. I love that for us.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. I love you so dearly. I'm so excited about your program. I'm so pumped about your book. Anytime that you want to come on here and just talk shop, like, please tell me, because all my group, my peeps that are watching this and that have come in and out today, like, will benefit so much from anything that you have to say. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I deeply love and appreciate you. And like, I just feel so grateful that in the thick ass stew that is social media and TikTok, that I found you. Like, you are such a bright light of authenticity and energy and vibrancy that, like, I just feel deeply grateful to know you and to be a part of your orbit. So thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for tuning in and commenting and waving and saying hi. And we'll see you on the next round. Gia, good luck. And then on this post, I'll make sure at the bottom of the post to tag in your course. So
yay, I love that.
Or not your course, your boot camp.
Yeah. Potato.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.